I spent 17 years in prison in California, and I was a criminal and did all that stuff, and I've been out for like 13 months, and this year, I had a normal life. I got my own place. I drove here, got a decent job, and but what happened? And I'm 38. What happened was I was born with, kind of like, I think all of the potentials to understand, the truth and to have the right values, but the opportunities that I was put in based on the fact I didn't have a dad, or I was in the wrong area, or whatever it was, they were dormant within me. And so the values that I chose were the values I needed to survive in the world around me at that time. And it were things like stealing, things like lying. It was things like to try to survive and get ahead. I was a survivor of child abuse, so I learned violence. At a young age to try to stay alive in that situation. I literally had to fight, with my mom's, counterparts and stuff like that. So those things, and it's crazy, is because those things became, I got more into those things than I got into the things that regular people are into, like, service or love or their family or devotion. And so it's like, now my life, like, for instance, when Marty invited me here, this seemed like the right thing to do. She's like, hey, you know what? I want to share this experience you've had, this experience of finding God, and this experience of changing your life. I want to share with these people. Can you come out? It seemed like the right thing to do. But there was a time when I was 14, when I was at a park, and it was up in Tacoma, Washington, and I was in a group home, and I had been shuffled around. My parents didn't want me there anymore, and they had told me, basically, they had moved my stuff out and said, you don't live here. And these guys had accepted me in the street, and they wanted to jump me into this gang, and that seemed like the right thing to do. It seemed like, okay, I don't have a family, I don't know where I'm going to go, so yeah, let's do this. And let's steal cars, or let's do, whatever it is that we're going to do. And it seemed like the right thing to do. And so that's what my job now is, because now I've had the experience where I've transcended. It's like at one time I thought wrong was right, and now I know what right is right. You know what I mean? And I have all these things in a row. But I got a bunch of people, like, friends that I've met since I've been out. They're like in East Oakland or San Francisco or San Jose, that they're kind of like still in the same situation. And there's like my deal, I ended up seeking, I got sentenced to prison when I was 19. And before that, I got sentenced to prison when I was 19. And I basically I hopped in and out until I was 37, and I figured out things along the way. But what I did was I couldn't ever really fully devote to a single tradition. And so when I started seeking God, I had to find him in a way where it was palatable for me. So I could see truths in Christianity, love your neighbor, God is your father, love him with all your mind and heart, love your neighbor as yourself. But I couldn't understand, things like my mother had been pushed away from the church for being with a black guy. My mom was white, my dad was black, and she had been had to forcibly give away one of my sisters to adoption, when all these kind of things. So there was things I couldn't swallow, and I couldn't get over the fact that the things people do in social organizations are not necessarily God. That God is not responsible for what his people, necessarily do, or what anyone does. And so it's like those things I had to reconcile those things through forgiveness, within myself, and through me and my mom, and even that daughter she had to give up, and even her grandparents. We all have a different relationship today, on forgiveness. Even the guy that abused me as a child and alienated me from, my family and all this stuff, I even had to forgive him, because that anger was just eating me up, and it was making me this other person who was abusive and all these things. And so it's like, what I ended up doing, since I couldn't find in any specific tradition, that would hold me, I went in when I was 15, and I had went through a drug and alcohol treatment. I ended up getting into Native American spirituality. And me and the brother here talked about it. And as I'm getting some gas one night, I find a little lock case. I feel like I'm in a video game. And I find this lock case at the window. As I'm paying for my gas, I open up, the Bhagavad Gita is in there. And I was like, and this is like one of the religious texts that I haven't really got into. And I know about, there was a major thing, like, because I'm trying to reconcile with young people the idea that you can still be a warrior and be good. And so that was, I only know it from conversation in the Bhagavad Gita, and I haven't read the whole thing, like I have the other religious texts, but I know that in there, Lord Krishna tells Arjun that do whatever you must, but don't remove anyone from your heart. And that's the message that you can tell a gang member in the street. You know, you can be a man, but you don't have to run out here and kill somebody. You know, and it's crazy because you don't have to run out to kill somebody to prove you're a man. You know, and that's a lot of what they're doing. And there's other ways you can prove you're a man. You can prove you're a man by kindness. You can prove you're a man by protecting your family. You can prove you're a man by just being successful in some kind of adventure, be it martial arts or yoga or this right here. You know, or you know, talking in front of people, or being honest. You know, or forgiving your enemy and giving him a chance to get his act together, and you know, and still be your friend or whatever it is. You know, and so it's like, but those are the things that you can do that simultaneously with being an authentic person. You know, I don't have to change. I can still go. That's one of the things is that trying to convince my young buddy who's born and raised in East Oakland, trying to convince him that, you know, you can still honorably, you know, still honor your friends and still but have these values, but you don't have to be this hardcore. You know, you can be a kinder, softer person, but in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? And so it's like, but trying to find that place. And I learned that. She mentioned the writing award I won, and I won it in prison. It was crazy, and it was crazy because it was a writing contest. It was 2005, and I wrote a story about the name changes that I had to undergo to kind of like shapeshift through these different places that I had been. And it was like I had grown up Billy. You know, in my family I had grown up Billy. I had grown up in a white family. I didn't meet my dad until I was 15, and so I grown up Billy. When I meet my dad, I turned to Trey, and I tried to get a little blacker. Now, because Billy sounded so white, and I tried to get a little blacker. Now I'm Trey. I don't think Marty made it, but it was that we all have meanings and values. We all have our own. We can put religious symbols on them or whatever, but we all have things that are meaningful to us, and we all have what we value. And your highest, you know, so we can figure these things out, and then give them to kids wherever they are. You know, they can be not just kids who are in church or not just kids who are religious folks, but we find a place at dojo or find a place at clubhouse or find a place and then try to give that to them still, you know, and then even still work with them while they're still doing the things that they're doing, because they're not just going to quit immediately. Yeah, and then make an incentive, because it's the cool thing is a lot of the stuff that I know that a lot of the people who I want to reach, a lot of them are doing it just to sustain what they think they need to do, you know. Okay. And so, you know, I'm grateful to be here. I'm glad that you guys would hear me, and thank you. And oh, you say stretch it out. Okay. I thought she was saying wrap it up. Okay, yeah. So that's so. Anyways, I don't. The thing was, well, here's what's crazy is that my last year, I watched Oprah for probably 10 years, and so it was like the whole bucket list deal. What do I want to do? And I wrote down these things that seemed so far out of reach: reuniting with my family, sustainable income, making enough to pay for my rent, and making enough to pay for my car, and making enough to like do things I want to do, Starbucks or whatever. And it was like, and all those things were answered within a few months. You know, I thought that it would be years. I pictured myself like changing, becoming this legitimate person, and then like showing up on my mom's door, knocking and being like, hey, look, it's your long lost son. It wasn't even like that. It was like, as soon as they figured out, I had that phone, I was sitting in the hotel room for like 3 days. They were down there that week when they figured out that, hey, he's really changed. He's not trying to do this stuff. They were down there that week. As soon as I changed, everyone came running. The jobs came in. The jobs came flooding in. You know, as soon as I was ready to change, the universe is a friendly place. And that's the thing to let most of these people, like in the hood or in the downtown or wherever, they don't know that. They think that, you know what, if I don't do this stuff, I'm just going to wither up and die. They think that if I don't sell dope, I'm not going to be able to eat. If I don't go here, but that's not true. You know, the truth is that if you're ready yourself, there are people who will pay you to like do some kind of service that can make them money. You know, you have and that these people are so resourceful. I've seen the difference between somebody who's college educated and someone who's like streets East Oakland educated. And I'd rather work with the guy from East Oakland, you know, who's busy. I'd rather work with, you know, I mean, honestly, I mean, he's going to hustle. He knows that, hey, this is bread and meat. And the guy who feels like he has a job and he feels like, whatever I do, it's all right. You know what I mean? So it's like I've seen there is something, these people can be employed in a way that changes our community, you know what I mean? And so that's what I want to do. That's what, that's what I'm up to, man. That's what I want to try to find a way where I can do it, full time. You know? That's what I'm up to. Thank you.